Hey, what's up, J Word fam? Today we are discussing the Black Lives Matter movement as well as just our Black experience and what it looks like and what it feels like. Today I have three special guests joining me in, this discussion. I have Lulu. She is from Kenya but lives in Manchester. Ross, aka Razea, and lastly Tasinga. They are both from Sheffield, and everyone who is a part of this panel, they are very passionate about what's happening, and they're activists in their own way, whether it's sharing information, whether it is, coordinating protests, whether it's being a part of the protests. In this, everybody has their role. So I want you guys to take that with you as, you watch this and just in your own life. So just want to jump in and ask you guys, are protests still happening there? And what issues do you guys face with your policing system?
I would say, obviously, in terms of the what's going on here right now, there's still protests here and there, but thankfully the protests have actually started movements or restarted movements and started that energy again, and made us look back and realize that okay, it's been 4 years since people have been active, but since then a lot of stuff has been done because 2016 everything was going on, and then people kind of stopped. It's kind of picked up that energy again, had people held accountable for kind of not being around and realizing that no, since then it's still happening. It wasn't a phase. So it's quite good to see that. At the same time, there's a lot of performative things, but you can't get mad at that at the same time because that's how things are marketed. We live in capitalist society, so you have to market things for people to even be aware of them. But then in terms of what the problem is, the problems, I think the main issues that we have here would be police, like injustice in general. So not even with the police system. I think a lot of it is actually with the court system and the difference in sentencing, and also the Home Office sending a lot of people back home unjustly and not giving them a fair trial and things like that. And it's just ridiculous. Recently, I mean, I know they got the Windrush scandal and all of that, but then you got young people as well that they've got there's some twins recently. They're from two different
Yeah,
Caribbean islands. They're trying to send
yeah,
one back to, yeah, and it's like things like that happen so often in England. You know what I mean? You got people here seeking asylum, and all of a sudden they're getting sent to the country that they were leaving. And if they go there, then in their mind they're gonna think, "Well, it's gonna be peak for me." Do you know what I mean? So that's a big problem. And then I say knife crime, just people carrying knives, and because that's a problem in itself, but it's also how they justify heavy policing in certain areas. So yeah, that's our main issues. What would you lot say?
For me, I would say that the first initial problem was that everyone sort of knew that there was injustices there and there was something going on, but it was hard to pinpoint because, like we say, that the UK is not as like straight in your face. Like in America, there's like things happen all the time that literally like a police officer just shoot you straight in the face like that. There's like really, really in your face things, but over here, there's things that are more. Although it may seem like it's more subtle, it's still like a big issue. It's still a big problem. So whether it be like people being mistreated because of their races in schools, and then now growing up with like the psychological effects, feeling like you're just lesser than the white person, just growing up in that school system because the curriculum, all that kind of stuff. But obviously, there's a lot of like there's a lot of names and of people that we read out at like some protests about people who have died in police custody. There's like a big story that's going around now about like someone who was like a very, very successful like manager or something, but because of how they met and the police treated him and all the kind of stuff that happened with that, he'd ended up like losing his job and all that kind of stuff. So now he's like trying to sue the police, and there's things that happen all the time. Like there was like a protest in Manchester and in Sheffield and some other places about like a little Somalian girl who had been killed by like white kids, but that had just been deemed as an accident. When if you literally read the story, you clearly be like, how is a case like this not being investigated? But if that little girl had been white, it would be going on for 13 years. If she was white and had money, it would be going on for such a long time. Just the same as like other like big stories. And then another big issue, like on top of like everything that Ross had said, is the lack of communication between the people who have the power and resources to make a change and the people who are being directly affected by the injustice and stuff like that. So a key example that literally I go back to, like literally like maybe be a few days after everything that happened in Bristol happened, like all the statues going down. There was a meeting with like some councillors in Sheffield, and because I was one of the organisers of the last protest, and we had jumped into the meeting to sort of hear what they were saying, and their solution on what was going on was to sort of erect a statue of the first person in Sheffield to start like some sort of slavery abolition act, but it was a white woman. So they wanted to now build the statue of a white woman and be like, yeah, you know, she helped save it. But it's like, if that's what you're getting and thinking that
I
that's
didn't even
what
know they
what's
said
happening,
that.
yeah, that's what I said. We were
You
literally
know.
in a meeting of this woman saying, we've heard this white woman saying, we've heard exactly what you guys are saying. We stand by you, and we want to build a statue up that's going to help represent you. So, and it was a white. So we were in that. We sort of like had our people sort of bombard that meeting and say, guys, like, this is not what we want. We're very disappointed if this is what you're now turning around and saying it's going to be a solution. Those resources, that money, that platform that you're using for, again, a performative gesture to say, yeah, you know, we get the pain, we know the struggle, that can be using to sort of be put into our communities, be put into the youth empowerment system, be put into all these different things, be put into reforming the education. It's just being misconstrued, and it's sort of like they're trying to make a solution without including us, the people who are going through it. Like, how can you build something to help me when you don't understand what I need and how I want it done? So that within itself, the lack of communication, the lack of intergenerational communication, there needs to be that bridge that's sort of like filled in. And when you like ask like why is there such an issue, it's like sort of a fault on both parts. So obviously the older people, they think that they're also wise and that they know everything that's going on, that they've got more authority than the youngest. But similarly, the youngest will be thinking, we might find it sort of intimidating to sort of approach. Now, I've been in meetings with like the Stand Up to Race committee in Sheffield, and it's just been white people over the age of 40 or white and Asians, and I'm just thinking, wow, like, can I really say anything? Like, I'm meant to respect my elders, but once you sort of have that confidence in yourself and it's easy to talk about it, and then it's like them also being approachable, being there to listen to us and sort of work and collaborate with us, because we can't do it without them and they can't do it effectively without us.
Are Black people there taking a stand and saying this is what we want, other than like the young people? Are there older Black elders saying, you know, this is what we want and we don't want this because when we tried this in our time it didn't work? Is that a thing or is that not a thing because it's so overpowered?
Yeah, so from my experience in like the sort of meetings that I've been invited to, so I was in like a Labour one where it was like some people representing the political party Labour, and then I was in like a Stand Up to Racism one, and the older Black people were the minority of the group of the start that self. So they say there was 10, 15 people, there'll be two maybe that are like Black or Black African, Caribbean heritage or whatever. Then there'll be some Asians, but the majority are like white people. And when you just look at it like, right. So the people we have representing us, the people we have making those decisions, distributing the funds, are not of our demographic, are not struggling like us, are not experiencing it. Yeah, you can read about it, yeah, you can hear about it, but it's different when you're experiencing stuff. But it's different when you're one of the undocumented voices. You've got a different perspective and different solutions that they'll never think about.
But Tash, who's the lead of Silent Racism?
Who's the lead? Well, the main people I've been speaking to is this woman called Colleen and this other woman.
What is she? What's she?
She's a white woman, yeah. Literally contacted me
You know
yesterday
what I
about
mean?
tomorrow. They're the leaders, they're the people most vocal about it.
Yeah.
I think that's part of the problem because, like, I mean, I've only been here like 3 years, but most of the people in places where Black people are oppressed are white people. So we don't have people who understand our needs, and therefore, like in hospitals, there's not as many Black doctors, and that's why many Black women are turned away. Like, there's this model who went to the NHS saying she's not feeling well, and they told her, just go home, have some paracetamol, you'll be fine. And she went in again, they were like, just go home. And then she died. And it's because we need people who understand how we feel and how things look on us. Because like some sicknesses display themselves in like different ways in Black people and white people. And I think it's important for like people growing up now, like who are going to go into uni, into like important professions like law and medicine, to really be understanding of all races and not just focus on their own race, because then the problem will like be diminished if everyone is understanding of everyone and not just focusing on the majority.
I was reading something actually the other day in which it was a doctor, and I think he's coming out with a book that shows like symptoms on black skin, and he was saying that basically when you Google something and things like that, you see images of whatever the symptom is on white skin, so it folds differently on a black person.
Mm.
And it's just crazy that everything, like how deeply rooted all of this is. And it's just so disgusting, especially that in these spaces, there aren't people that look like us. And, we just don't have a seat at certain tables. And if we are, we have to, be a certain way, or else we're intimidating or we're angry and all of this other stuff. And we're not taken serious in our, profession, whatever that may be, no matter how qualified you may be to, do whatever it is, whether you are a doctor, lawyer, or, just whatever.
Yeah, honestly, even like just to add on to the medical side, my sister's a doctor, and obviously everyone knows that doctors study hard, and doctors like have to put in a lot of work to even get that sort of respect and so that kind of stuff. And she even felt bad once that she was talking about how like there'll be other black women coming in showing her rashes and stuff, and she not even knowing what it is. And then after now an extra week of testing, you realize, oh, if that had been a white woman who had walked in, I would have known that in a blink of an eye. Like, and when it's now serious things like cancerous moles or whatever, if you don't know what that looks like, that week can be a big thing. And then even just how like black female doctors are even just like portrayed. So like during all this like corona COVID situation, doctors are like our soldiers right now. But my sister would walk in to like go and see a patient or something, and they'll look at her and be like, I'm waiting for the doctor, why are you here? And she'd be like, well, I am the doctor. And someone literally said to her, like, get your black hands off me as well, like you're not a doctor. Like, what?
Hey,
As if to say,
blood.
I'm not risking my life.
Hey.
She's got a son at home, a little son at home. She's risking him going to work, and you're now saying, oh, you can't touch me, you can't do this.
Audacity. Think I won't be
And I'm
slipping
like,
something in your drip. I watch you
exactly.
suffer, fam. You talking to me like that.
Yeah, literally, like she was telling me all these stories, and and my mom's a nurse as well, and the fact that they've got countless stories, and I'm like, wow. In the medicine, I feel like when you're at that point, it would be like old people, young people, and you're at that point when you need someone's medical assistance. Surely you'll be like, anyone help me, but still, you still find time, you still find energy, even if you're in so much pain, just to like.
But black people, this is the thing though. We're actually, even though we're portrayed as the most savage, the most aggressive, the most this, we're actually the opposite. I'm telling you, almost any other race here, you can't be telling them things like, get your this and that hands off me, and they'll still help you. We're so on it to be like, listen, we actually know you're being ignorant, so I'm just gonna go past it. It's like there's that famous picture of the black workers helping that Klansman. You see that the picture of the Klansman all bloody and they're helping him. And I always look at that and think, have you lost it? Like, I would never. I just look at him. I just watch him. You know what I mean? But the thing is, we're such a, everyone's, even if whatever your faith is and that, like black people have this, so there's always something. There's always a belief in something, or just the way we talk is supernatural almost. You know what I mean? We have this belief in another thing, and we know we have a purpose. Like the way we walk is just letting you know, listen, you can move how you move, but we know the fact your sister can hear that and still come into work and help. Listen, and I know this, I'm not into all this Karen stuff, but it's a very good description of a type of person. A Karen is not dealing with that. She's going to write letters, complain, boycott, but we just go and just do it. And I just say it's amazing, but it's sad.
The same stuff happens in America too. I have an aunt who's a nurse, and she's told me like a story too, especially when she first started, of people saying, "Oh, you're a doctor, or you're this. You can't treat me." And I think there was a time where someone even threw like feces at her and stuff like that. And she said how embarrassed she was to do her job, but it was just one of those things that's just heartbreaking to hear. because of the color of your skin, you know, and it's like it's just sad, and it just brings me back to just the way that we were, the way that we're portrayed, just like the media, with the thugs, where you know the whores and all of these people and all of these negative things, and you know when people see that, they think that we are that, and they think because of that, because of how we're portrayed in the media, etc., that you know we're deserving of that treatment. We're deserving to be made to be inferior, in that we've done it to ourselves. And even with policing, you know, a lot of the times we notice that with the police, they'll talk to one group of people a certain way, they'll be respectful and, ma'am, sir, we need you to do this. But to a person of color, a black person, it's, yo, put your hands on the wall, just coming at you crazy, really aggressive, and, just coming with that energy that's just negative. And
then
no
I
matter.
was just feel like I think people get it misconstrued when they think it's a police problem, because obviously it is a police problem. It's a problem that has entered every institution because it exists societally. So it's always going to touch everywhere. It just so happens the police have this authority. Do you get me? Because you can see, I see school was mini society. There's a little micro society. So everyone that ended up in pen or a jail that I know was in detention and isolation quite a lot. You get me? The people that I know can talk to police a certain way and they expect something. The teachers were the police at the time, innit? And me, myself, being someone that I can chill with anybody, I can see the difference. Because I might be with the good white youths and that. Their relationship with the teachers from year 7 onward, it was very different to the guys that ended up getting in trouble. You get me? And it's just so happened, my parents put something in my mind to let me know what was going to happen before it happened, but not everybody had that. So when a teacher assumes you do something, you start to go, well, bun it then. I'm going to start doing things. The amount of times I was called into the office and called into places and had detentions for things that I didn't do, you do start to act out, but then you remember because I had it put inside. So the thing is the teachers did what police did already to get us used to it almost. Like, it's like the institute, the system is so set up, ready to go, listen, prepare, this is going to be what you're used to. And the thing is, that's why even now, if I get stopped in search or anything like that, I'm prepared for it, because in school, I'd already been basically searched in that, because they if they're looking for weed or something like that in school, it's me emptying my bag, like that, because I'm most likely to be that. So I already know who I am in society. But then the white kids are also watching that. So when they grow up, they've been now taught, literally in school taught, these are the guys that are going to do these things. So even though I don't do those things, because I've been taken out of lesson, all they're seeing is it's always this type of person. And that's why these police, like, they've got them same mindsets, but then they've got the authority to tell you to be quiet. And the way they are if you and your group of friends are smoking weed on the roadside, the way they come up to you is so different. And I don't even believe it when I see it. Do you know what I mean? The way these lot that go with the police, they ring them, there's someone in next door that I don't recognize, or someone walking in the street I don't recognize. I'm only calling police if it's like that's the last thing. I don't call police. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to try to handle this thing myself, but these lot call it just for, I know people that got lifts from police to go home when it was raining. Now, how baffling that is. The police to them is like a friendly teddy bear, and to us is like, you know what I mean? That's not right. They're not our police, and we know that. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. It's a difference. And I noticed that with racism, it's not, in your face like how it is in America. Everything is very subtle. Watching the British media, they always talk about America, like from our politics, from the pop culture, and everything going on. And I want to know, does that take away from the things happening in Britain? Do you guys know about the things that are happening there? Because even with like colonization and stuff like that, I remember being there and kind of having those conversations with people in classes, and a lot of them, the people there, they didn't know their history, which makes sense because I guess you're not going to be taught that we've taken over the world and stuff like that. But because of America, well, do you think that America is used to as a decoy to take away from British issues?
To answer that, in my opinion, I feel like America is sort of used as this sort of like deflective. Do you know, like when you're younger, you've done something bad, and like there's like a group of you, and you like just putting the blame on your cousin, more like, oh, well, cousin Jerry did this more, like, and you just say something so that the limelight is not on you. I feel like that happens a lot. So like even when it comes to police brutality stories and all that kind of stuff, even if you ask like the average British person, they'll be able to like name the stories from America. You hear the Breonna Taylors, the George Floyd, the Eric Garner, all those people. But if you ask them now to name the people who have died in police custody within Britain and the current things that are happening now, even about the twins that you were talking about earlier, Russ, and all that kind of stuff, people don't really know about that. And whether that be like because the news documents more about American stuff, or that just people just assume that it's America that all this like mad racism stuff happens, even when it comes to studying slavery and stuff like that, because I did A-level history, and even in that when we did the slavery coursework, it was mostly about the slavery that was just in America, sort of a way that we're not really talking about how Britain had slaves and stuff like that. Everything is just really much like the limelight goes into America, and I just think that it's just for England to sort of get away with it. Like people, when they think of like a racist leader, they'll just look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump's this, but people don't understand like the stuff that Boris Johnson himself has done that are crazy as well. Why Boris himself would be someone who you think would be best friends with Donald Trump, but because Donald Trump again has this stereotypical American thing of just being in your face, upfront about it. That's why America's sort of like this outspoken cousin who's like the rebel child, and Britain's just the little cousin who just thinks sneakily. We're still doing things that are just as bad, but some people just don't see what England do it because we're not loud about
America's that reactive one.
it. Exactly.
They're more reactive. If there's two people in the class that get in trouble, it's the loud one that's obviously doing it, and then there's the slick one that does it but puts his hand away. You know, like that.
Yeah.
And that's Britain's very good at making their leaders and things they do look like, oh, we're just all bumbling fools and idiots and we're all really nice and that. And it's like, blood, you lot are the worst. Don't do that. You know what I mean?
That's why everyone's being so like big on saying the UK is not innocent, because there's always been this narrative where in protests, in marches, in things, we're just standing in solidarity for America. We're standing with America. But guys, we're all going through the same thing. We're all suffering the same. We're all standing together. It's not like England just supporting America because America's are messed up. It's us both standing together because both of our systems are messed up. We both have this institutionalized racism, but it's just that England uses America, this big scapegoat, this big country, America this, America that. But where are the stories that are talking about what's happening in our own backyard?
We don't hear that over here, personally. We don't hear about this stuff over here. And a lot of people here are ignorant to the sense of, nothing happens over there, because from the media and from the perception, it's like, we don't know about the knife crime because it's just not, we don't hear about it. We hear a lot about the Queen, though, and, stuff like that. But other than that, we really don't care about the politics and stuff going on.
Yeah, exactly. Even like when you were talking, like when we're saying about things being bigger, people think, oh my gosh, guns is so much worse. But the last time I checked, a gun and a knife can still kill just as many people. Just because you deal with a gun and I do with a knife doesn't stop the fact that people are dying. Our people are still dying. But just because
now, guns is mad though. Guns is a bad take. Like, you know what?
Yeah,
the very limited amount of times I've been around gunfire, yeah, it's like it's so loud and like it's a different the thing is when someone gets stabbed, everyone just disperses and you just dash. When shooting, you feel like this bullet's flying. So I feel like that trauma, especially because I got a couple family members in Brooklyn, some in Queens and things like that, right? So they do tell me about certain things going down, and I'm not saying it's not, because obviously they try to downplay it and that, but the whole gun thing with America, the fact that people just have gun is so
it's mad.
Big gun control issue.
In England, we use that as like they've got guns, our problems are nothing because they've got guns. But it's still like we still have issues. Like,
right. I think also like the British media, like, was it when Shukri Abdi died that week? I think it was also Adele's birthday, and she had lost weight. So all the headlines, instead of like covering this, were all like, "Oh, look at Adele, she's lost weight," and everyone is like, "We don't care. Like, this isn't front page news. You know, every time something happens, they just get like a superficial story, and then people will just read that and they'll think, oh yeah, this is nice, everything in the country is nice," but that's not the case. And even with teaching like history, because in Kenya, because Kenya was a British colony, we learn about like everything that happened. So like when I came here, I assumed, oh yeah, everyone knows like everything the British did, but no one knows anything. And it's like I know everything, and it's not like it was a long time ago. It was like my great grandparents and my grandparents. So that's not too long ago, and no one is taught about it. No one knows anything about it. It's just kind of like covered. And I think it's just important for them, for people to learn about it so they can just, because it's still part of their history. And I just think people should know.
Scary when you deep the level of propaganda. When we did propaganda, and we did German propaganda and American propaganda, World War stuff, you learn it, and then all of a sudden I start deeping. Later on, we're gonna look back at now and realize all the propaganda. When I'm watching, I love Marvel, but I'm looking at Marvel, I'm thinking this propaganda spread all over the thing, and it's just, and even
censorship as well. You learn about like censorship, about the things that they hide.
And then you realize that's just all they do is they do something, and then they wait 30 years, and then they say, you know what? Yeah, we did do that, but it's not us no. Do you know what I mean? Yes. And then what's it called? What you saying about the school system? I might have been year 6, year 7 when I realized we was doing the same thing. Like, how long can we do Florence Nightingale, the Tudors? You know what I mean? This, that. We're just getting. I'm thinking. I'm sure there's more things that happened in this. Do you know what I mean? But no. So you have to now. If you don't think that, you'll never go. I probably all of us had that moment where we said, I'm just going to teach myself.
Yeah.
Which is, it's sad because then you look at these people and we look at them like, right, you lot are really eating this stuff up. But there was a time I believed the news, and I can't even believe it now. But there was a time I watched the news and said, yeah, that's what shit is. And then you get to an age where we're used to it now, but to try to tell someone in their early 20s, late 20s or onward, oh yeah, everything you've been thinking is all a lie.
Is wrong.
They'll hear you, and you'll show it to them, but they'll think their body, your ego is there, so you survive in it. Your ego goes, listen, don't even worry about that. Bury it deep and just continue your life. Ignorance is bliss. You get me?
White people, they forget, like, at least here they act like, whoa, are we talking about the history that was so long ago? But it was our grandparents. It was, you know, they say, oh, your ancestors. What are you talking about, my ancestors? Like, you know, and it's so crazy. People don't understand how close this is and how far, like, we've come a long way, but we haven't gotten that far to really make that much change, if that makes sense. So it's like I feel like people are always trying to find a reason to deflect. And going back to the conversation that you were talking about earlier with, you know, being in school, being searched and stuff, you know, it's really sad that, you know, Black kids are not able to be kids, like, ever, you know? And it is just really heartbreaking that your family has to, you know, they just have to prepare you for this world that is just so unjust, and it's just, it's fucked up to be, you know, stripped of your humanity time and time again and just put down. And I think, you know, being over there, a lot of people, they wouldn't even own up to being Black. Like, they would be Black as me and darker. And they'd be like, no, I'm mixed race. I'm not Black. And I'm like, why are you Black? Clearly, Black, trying to escape from it. And it's just so crazy that that's a thing, and that, you know, we have to hate ourselves. Well, we don't have to, but, you know, it's sad that that happens oftentimes and stuff, you know.
I think we're catching up. We're almost catching up with America in terms of, if you see now, a lot of British people are very on, even the rappers and the singers, everyone's feeling very free enough to say things, to do all these videos, to go to the protest. It's all very new, because really in America, black people have built America, so you've been there. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing. It's like England, we're always comparing England and America. We're not that similar. We're a lot smaller. And black people have always been in England, but we came here en masse in terms of who we are now in the 50s and the 60s, and then in the following decades. And a lot of people I know, I went uni, like, I know that my dad come here, and also my grandparents on my mom's side came here. So it's like one generation, two generation. A lot of my friends from uni though, the African friends especially, they've come here in the last few years or decade. Do you know what I mean? So it's like all of us are recently going, hold up, England's a bit mad. And now, you know, stuff like wearing, I've always been the type to wear something on my t-shirt, but that's because I did grow up quite Americanized, watching all the shows, those things. If I'm watching Martin, and Martin's always wearing something, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I knew to be out there, but I used to get judged for being out there by other black people because we weren't yet in that mindset of something was going on. We're all still back home and just experience stuff here and not really seeing it. Especially down south, you don't really see it because you might be just around your people. I was lucky enough to kind of be around white people quite a lot. So I learned early, like, wait a minute, it's a bit mad. So everyone else is getting there now, and I'm liking it. But at the same time, we have to almost look at where America, like black Americans, kept getting hit back and try not to make the same mistakes. Because, for example, you know, the Black Panther movement, I think they let too many people get involved, and then it was easy to infiltrate for the FBI. They just had loads of rats and things like that. So it's like things like that. If we kind of watch you guys and go, all right, we're doing the same, even the chants, have you been to like a protest in England? Our chants don't sound how they're supposed to, if we're honest. You know, you guys even made fun of how we said Black Lives Matter. Because you guys say, we pronounce the T's, do you know what I mean? So it's like we got to find our own feet with it a little bit, do you know what I mean?
It's just crazy how much money they have, only to, again, I was talking about protecting just white people, white everything, property, etc. And you know how there's no protection for black people, and how we need to just change that, and how do we kind of do that?
I think a lot of these problems are going to continue to exist simply because we're not in our own society, do you know what I mean? And I'm not anti-integration, but if I feel like we integrated too soon and too abruptly, and it wasn't really integration, it was dilution. Like black people assimilated almost the hardest out of anyone that kind of maybe came into the West or white society. We integrated so hard that their society literally is based off us. Like, you got to think, like, it's actually mad. Why am I hearing, and it's not a bad thing, I like it, but when I really deep it, these white youth will come up to me, Wagwan. That's mad. When you deep it, that's mad. If white you came up to you and said something in a next other language, if man ni hao, yeah, you'd be like, wait a minute, what's going on? But this is really it's really patois, it's really what we speak, and we've given it away because we didn't get anything back. We've just given it away. And if you see it, what we've done, we've come into the society, they've just stripped us of all. We keep making shit and they just keep taking it, and it's the maddest thing. And in this society, we will never get what we truly. That I'm a believer. I have to now believe from lockdown, almost the spiritual side of things, that there's a spiritual answer, there's something else going on, because even if we don't find something in our lifetime, we have to know there's purpose to our lives as black people, like the way we are, because then I start thinking of people that were born and also died in enslavement or in colonialism. They also too had a life purpose, do you know what I mean? But part of me can't even fathom that, because my idea would be, I have to get freedom. But then it's perceived freedom, and I feel like they keep us fighting over these same things and wanting these same things because it's very worldly. Most religions talk about not being in love with the world, and I think they make everything about the world. But if we went to a different level, we'd understand that even if we don't get out of these chains, you know what I mean, there's something else. Because within this system, and it sounds so defeatist, but when you look at every angle, to achieve what we want to achieve, we have to talk how they talk, and that's violence and money.
Right.
And the way it's set up is against us being able to compete with their violence and with their money.
Yeah.
Because even if we got reparations, where does it go?